All right, everybody. So this is going to be the very first iteration of videos I'm going to be doing in the future whenever I get the chance. These are going to be opportunistic learning opportunities. This is like me retroactively explaining how I make my edits once they're done. If you want to see the whole edit, like the finished product, you could go to my Instagram or you could just kind of just follow along with me and look at what's going on essentially right now. Uh, with that out of the way, let's just get started. So what I want to do is I want to break down the color grading and then what's going on the edit page itself, and then just talk about the sound. Yeah, like the sound a little bit, and then we'll talk about how I got it exported. So, um, I start every project by choosing a hero frame and making a grade for it that's rough, and then refining it as the product as the project not product huh, as the project goes on. And just understand I'm explaining this linearly, but when I am editing I'm going back and forth because I may change my mind on a lot of things. So this is why I prefer to stay away from how-to videos. Yes, they can teach you how to do something, but not everything in the creative space is going to work on a linear path in that fashion. So jumping into the grade, right here, I have my color space transform. It's going from Rec 2100 into DaVinci Wide Gamut. I shoot an HLG on my FX30, and I just prefer to shoot with that because I don't run into any banding issues, especially when I shoot in 10-bit. And there's enough information that the camera's recording and enough flexibility for me to work in post. And also, I don't have to spend too long refining the image because refining an S-Log3 image takes much longer than refining something with a smaller signal such as this. If you're unsure how or what uh, color space your footage was shot in, you can go to the media page on the bottom left hand, or sorry, very middle left hand side right here. And if you don't see color space, just right click this and check the color space box, input color space right here. And once you have that selected, you'll be able to see different clips. And as you can see, all of my input color spaces for all this are in Rec 2100. So since we're taking Rec 2100 and bring that into the project, I prefer to color grade in a managed workflow where I manually manage it. So I'm converting this on the way in into DaVinci Wide Gamut. And roughly speaking, DaVinci Wide Gamut is just a gamut space that can fit all different types of camera color spaces. So if you're shooting on Canon, Fujifilm, Sony, and like Panasonic, any other camera manufacturer, or you have multiple camera manufacturers on the same project, it's better to just bring them all to DaVinci Wide Gamut and then ship them all out in Rec 709. And my project settings have Rec 709 already right here. The timeline color space and the output color space are the same. It's outputting it in Rec 709, but this timeline color space gets overridden when I make the new input color space DaVinci Wide Gamut. And then I have to make another color space transform on the way out that takes it from DaVinci Wide Gamut and then pumps it out into Rec 709. And Rec 709, for those of you that are new, that are possibly watching this and just trying to get an idea of how DaVinci works, Rec 709 is just a standard display color space that everything needs to be shipped out in to look the same on all broadcast platforms and all displays. So usually I get these two nodes done. I'll highlight them right now. These two nodes right here and right here are the ones I do first. Then I start filling this out in the middle. I take the signal from the very first node and I make a parallel mixer. So that will be, I think it's Alt P on your keyboard. It's Alt P, and that's either Option or Command P for those of you on Mac. I think. Anyways, I make a parallel mixer and I make 3 nodes on top. You're not always going to need 3 nodes, but I just like to have this many, and 3 nodes on bottom. And this isn't the ideal way to do it. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Like, usually I have different node graphs for different projects. It's just that this one in particular just works out the best for me if I need something quick. I try to label everything so you guys can have a rough understanding just from looking at it. But I just gonna peel the orange back and explain everything like individually right now. So on the top, and these are borrowing the same signal, by the way. These are borrowing the same signal coming in. So the color space transform is branching off into my secondaries and my primary adjustments. My primary adjustments are going to be exposure, then balance, and then saturation. But I didn't even need to move the saturation or the balance just because of the way the lighting was in the gym at the time. And I'm actually going to disable everything except for the color space transforms. There we go. So this is what it would have looked like with no exposure adjustment and just with the footage being converted from Rec 2100 to Rec 709. My first mode of operation is to get the exposure dialed in, and this is kind of where I like it. I just make sure that when I'm doing this that I'm bringing it down, and I'm looking to compress the information. I'm not looking to stretch it out too far, especially because we got black and white in this gym, and those are very like high contrast colors that are already so far apart from each other that I don't really want to push them out of bounds going top or bottom. And then what I did was I went to sharpen my footage down the pipeline. Very last thing I'll do. And then I will add a LUT. Now, I'm not gonna be one of those guys that's gonna be like, buy my LUT pack and or buy LUTs, they make you better. What I will say though is that LUTs save you time if you know what they do. So I could spend my time grading this every single time and having it look like I made it every time, of course, like, but it just takes too much time to do that. So what I did was I bought LUTs from a more experienced colorist than myself. His name's Colin Kelly, and I prefer to use his because his aren't very destructive. I mean, LUTs shouldn't be destructive in the first place, but like LUTs that you get from people, and let's just say you bought it off a creative on Instagram, the likelihood that that person is sophisticated and knows what they're doing when they make their LUTs is very low. And you're paying money for something that's supposed to save you time, and that product could not be, I would say, optimized or the best version of what it could be. So I go straight to a source that's been doing this for much longer than me, and I get stuff from them. Of course, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create your own in the future, like more intuitively. But for the sake of the tutorial or like the walkthrough right now, I went with one of his LUTs that just kind of standardizes it. Kind of goes with like a red-blue split toning that's subtle. I mean, it doesn't really push too much red or too much blue into the image. And then what I did was I blended it. So I put it at about 80%. The key output down here is like a percentage base. So if 1 means like it's on and it's at 100%. And then every decimal going beneath that is going to be like 0.8, 80% obviously. And working all the way down to 0 where it's completely not seeable. So I could drag it back and forth right now. You could change the intensity. I usually never run LUTs at like the full capacity because the people who are more experienced make them more powerful than necessary to work with different types of like log curves and stuff. So let's just say like you're working with black magic footage, you probably need to run this a bit more intense to get the same results. But because I'm running HLG, I don't need to run it completely at full strength. So once I'm done with this, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is my base. I'm working with this. Second hand, the second part is to balance it. And I can go to my balance node, and usually what I would do, and this is what Colin Kelly does as well, is I would go to gamma, change this to linear on the balance node, go straight to the primaries wheels and use the gain wheel as a universal wheel to kind of like push the image in a direction I want it to go in that looks natural. And I got kind of like experimenty this time because I wanted to do two things at once, kill two birds with one stone. So I wanted to change the hues of the image while also balancing it. And I opted out for this and I went to the color warper tool. And I'm going to turn this node on right now. Boom. And I noticed that the gym already had like blue tones in the blacks already, like wanted to creep out when I was playing around with it. So I was like, well, why don't I just do both at the same time? And I grab this snowflake and I just drag it over and I kind of eyeball this cloud right here so that it's straddling the middle, and keep a close eye on his shirt and be like, okay, looks natural now, And that's what I did. Not too much going on there. And then what I'll do is these colors are kind of hot, and that's not really a professional way of saying it, but to me they're very pop. They pop too much. I don't like that. I like dull, muted tones. That's just how I am as an artist. So there's two ways you can approach the next step, and this what I wanted to do next is I wanted to how do I put this? I wanted to make the colors more dense. So when most people talk about the cinematic look on YouTube or on Instagram, what they're saying is an very unsophisticated way of saying, oh, I want this to look more filmic. Well, what is the properties of film? Film emulations, for the most part, have dense colors that don't fight each other. So you want color harmony. You want all the colors swimming together harmoniously, and you can have maybe one or two kind of stick out, but all of them shouldn't be conflicting. They should all paint the image evenly. So what I do is I try and kill off the ones that are too strong and bring them down to a level that they're not really exceeding too much the attention grabbing potential of all the colors in the image. And this is very simple because we just have skin tones, and he's the talent and I want everyone to look at him. So what I did was I increased the density to the point that he kind of looked like the way I remember him standing right there in front of me at the gym. So this is more or less what his skin tone looked like to me. And you can see on the vector scope on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that this color is not exactly losing saturation. It's just becoming more compressed. That information is still there, but the cloud is becoming more dense. Everything is like hugging onto each other. So it's not all spread out. And the contrast is like the brightest on the highlights of his skin, and in the shadows it's like a different muddy type of the same color. No, we're just pulling all that in and it looks a lot more like solid, to me anyways. Everything is subjective, so I'm just explaining how I did it. You guys can totally disagree with me here, but I'm just doing my best to try and get you guys to like get inside of my head. And then I go with my foreground. I actually will go and take a gradient adjustment power window tool, and I will put it on the bottom. And the reason I do this is because I don't want people's eyes wandering to the bottom of the screen. If you pay attention to the floor down here, for the most part, I'm like evening out the tonality on the floor. There's not this gloss, this reflection coming off. It's very subtle, like I'm darkening everything. And if you looked at the image right here, you wouldn't even think that there is a darkening going on, but yeah, it's there, and that's because light bounces off of all surfaces, including the floor. So if you ever wonder like why your footage looks a little bit tacky, it's probably because you could use power windows to kind of isolate the subject a bit more and darken the areas that aren't of interest. So now we did that. Then we add my sauce, and my sauce is I went over this in other videos. I will take a node and I will make it a compositing mode screen, and then I'll take the radius in the blur and sharpen tab and I'll make it 3 across the board right here. And you can see what happens when I drag this all the way up. Now that looks disgusting, but if you start killing it off and bringing it back, you start really getting a little bit of like a creamy adjustment going on in your highlights. Or it starts to suck the detail out of the highlights and retain them in the shadows while also making the image a little bit more flat, which is what I do like. You can see that on the vector scope right here, or sorry, the histogram. It just kind of brings everything up subtly, not too aggressively. So I'll park it right there. Right here. So this is all happening on a clip basis. If you pay attention to the top, there is a dots right here. And this dot right here means we're working on the clip. I put all these clips into a group called Sony for the FX30. So we have our group pre-clip, which nothing's going on in here. We have our clip itself, which is all the local adjustments happening on this clip. And then we have our group post-clip and our timeline. So this is where we get to the special part, because the group post-clip, all of the entire clips that are part of the group are all affected by this, these two adjustments right here. Oh my gosh, we just crashed. That is crazy. That is the first time DaVinci's ever crashed on me. That's wild. All right. So let me just load this back up, but also talk while this is doing its thing. The group post clip that we were just looking at is all of the adjustments that take place after the local adjustments, and then the group pre-clip are all the adjustments that take precedent before the local adjustments. So now everything's grouped up, and you can have a bunch of group-based adjustments that are either on the back end or on the front end. And these dots only show up after you make everything into a group. So you can actually literally click one of these, hit Control A if you want to select all your clips, or just select them with Shift click or Control click if you want to be selective about which ones are going in the group. Right click it, and then put Add into New Group, name the group. These should pop up. Also, you have by default this one, this timeline. Timeline affects everything on the timeline. So let's start with the group post clip. I like a green tint on all my videos. And to get the green tint, let's think smarter, not harder. So I just take the green and the top end right here in the curves, and I just slide it to the left just a smidge. And I don't know if you guys can see because of YouTube compression, but if I go into the start pixel peeping, I'm adding just a subtle green hue to the entire image. And just so you know, the human brain sees green as the brightest color no matter what. So if you make things have a slight tinge of green, it just brightens them up just a little bit, adds a little punch to the image. And no one's looking at this going, oh my gosh, everything's so green. They're looking at it and everything looks a little bit more filmic subconsciously. Because some stocks of film did have a green tint like baked into it. And then we go to our contrast. And for contrast, I went to the HDR color wheels. The HDR color wheels are really intelligent because they just try to look at your footage, evaluate what it is, and go, oh, okay, we're working with this. Okay, I'll try and make non-destructive adjustments because I know I'm working with this. I know how big the box we're working in is. So I just pulled some of the contrast out of the image right here, and it's because if you look at the top end right here where the absolute white is, it's reaching up there pretty far. So, and the bottom end right here, we're still safe. It's around the 64 end. So I just pulled it back just a little bit, and that makes things a little bit more soft. And if you know me, or if you see my stuff, the main comment I get from people is, why does your stuff look so surreal? How is it so soft and yet it's so contrasty at the same time? Well, cat's out of the bag, everybody. I kind of just showed you not my whole work process, but most of my work process. And let me name this sharpen. There we go. Well, I showed you my entire work process with the color grading page for the most part. I hope you extract whatever you can out of that to learn, and let's move on to the next part. So the next part is, okay, we got our hero shot graded, and now I take all my entire grade and I copy paste it to all of my clips. And if you want to do that, you just hit Control A on here, or you select your clips, you right click it and put apply grade to literally everything, or you can middle mouse click with everything selected and it works the same way. So then we come to the edit page. I choose my music. I chose this song right here, and I'm going to go ahead and just let you guys kind of listen to it. So it's very steady, and with a steady beat like that, I just make cuts on top of the bass line. So I make all my cuts on the bass lines. I choose my favorite clips, and then I kind of just build a rhythm in my head. Like kind of clip everything out. There's another video I made with how to save time editing where I show you how to ripple delete and trim to start, trim to end. So that has a factor in my efficiency when I go to create this entire edit. And I like putting my effects on adjustment clips because they affect everything beneath them, and I can like isolate and work independently and not have the actual effect be on the clip itself, but on the adjustment clip. So if I want to move it around or adjust it some more, it's on its own little brick. And we have a couple things going on for the beginning right here. So I'm going to go ahead and mute this. And I'm going to play it back. And we have this rotation. And this zoom in actually is from the camera. So you can be creative with your camera movements and have them kind of play in it and help your effects as well. So it pulls out and then it goes back in, and I want to like kind of trick people to trying to rotate their phone when they watch something on Reels on Instagram, because that's where this video ended up going. And I just have it rotate, boom, now the video is horizontal and there's me in the background. So what I did also is I have a bass shake and I have another tutorial, and I had it creep in, and because I have the opacity changing, we're getting this ghosting effect. And then that leads into a harsh shake, which has the glow pumped up on it, and that hits, and then that leads into the video. So the hook is not that difficult. Also, I have a defocus gamma that I made, which I'm also going to be giving a tutorial about in the future. That's kind of like a lens defocus that looks organic, but it's done in the editor. And then I also have, let's go into the Fusion page real quick. And we have a transform. And I can click this to show you the size and the angle. So I only really keyframe the size and the angle. No anim curves going on right here this time, because you guys keep seeing me try to like use anim curves for everything. This didn't need automation. This needed more manual correction. So I made special curves that kind of ease out very slowly, but have a very harsh beginning. And you can see the values changing right here. So I took the size and the angle from 1.7 and 90 degrees and have them settle back to the original values just to rotate the clip back like this. And you can see from the green box what's going on. It's kind of just rotating and then easing back in very slowly. Also, I want you guys to know that most of the effects you see on Instagram that looked ooh and ah and crazy, usually it's a bunch of effects that are stacked on top of each other working in concert. It's never like one crazy thing that makes the video awesome. It's always going to be like a bunch of little things working together, like these things. All these 4 things came together and boom. And I also like putting my dynamic zooms on adjustment clips. There's a tab right here that you could just click called dynamic zoom. I'll probably peel this orange back a little bit more in the future, but you can have it set to the keyframing being ease in and out, ease in, ease out, whatever you want. And you can also bring up the inspector right here and see the dynamic zoom that's taking place, with the green being where it's starting and the red meaning where it's ending. And once I turn this on, it just kind of like zooms in hella slow. This wasn't a zoom that happened in camera. It's just a dynamic zoom that's happening in the software very subtly. And then I have all my cuts, and I added a directional blur to the parts that I knew I wanted to add motion to. And I also have another tutorial that I'm going to be... did I put my speed ramping tutorial up? No, I don't think I put it up actually yet. I'll get to that though. Speed ramping, there you go. I have that hotkeyed as well. I'm going to show you guys some more in the future, but speed ramping, going in and out. Then I put my directional blur on the 2 parts. Then that leads over into just my flash transition that I showed in another tutorial on my YouTube channel. You guys can go and watch that. This is the flash I like using. It's very organic looking. And I usually don't really need too many transitions. Transitions kind of make people feel like they're watching a video. If there's sound effects that go along with it and it feels organic, fantastic. But just don't try and overdo it. And then for over here, I had a stutter cut where I took the very first frame right here and I dragged the clip up, and then I made a freeze frame just by right clicking it, going to change clip speed and hitting freeze frame right here, hitting OK, and then making it 1 frame. And then I took those frames and I kind of stuttered them right here. And I added a very subtle film burn that I changed the properties of in the color tab. But it's not, I took the color out and it's keeping the luminosity values changing the image. So that's all I wanted it for. And then I had the stutter kind of just do this from the very first frame, goes in. And then I took a duplicate of this exact clip right here, dragged it on top, and changed the composite mode to exclusion. And I have another tutorial talking all about the composite modes and how cool they are. But I changed this to exclusion, had it roll in very subtly, and changed the zoom and position parameters of it. And we have this burn effect coming in. And I know that he has a white shirt on, so the image kind of distorts and becomes inverted in different parts. And that leads into my logo and a hyperlapse, which I'm also going to be giving a tutorial about in the future. But it's a bunch of clips playing very quickly, one after the other, in the background in black and white, phasing out, and then going into a very, very, very simple blur dissolve that's literally in the effects video transitions right here. Blur dissolve right there. I just dragged that on and changed the values of it. It's a bit strong. I drag it very, very to the lower values because It looks very cheesy and fake the more intense it becomes. Had that fade in to my font, which is Times New Roman, or my text. And I like taking the tracking on my text and dragging it all the way up, or just having it super high. You can go even higher if it's a fusion text, if which is, by the way, I'll actually get into that in future. If I type text right here and go to the toolbox, there's two types of text. There's text and there's text plus. Text plus is a lot more modular. Text is usually when you just want to get text on the screen as fast as possible and make some adjustments, and that's it. So that's what I did here. I just threw a text, chose the font, put it right there. So now that we're done with the editing part, right? I kind of add the sound effects afterwards because I know where I want the sound effects to go. It's totally up to you where you want to add the sound effects. The sound effects I use are impacts, risers, whooshes, and sub like basses. For now, I mean, there's other stuff, but I don't feel like I'm sophisticated enough to really use everything to its maximum potential. So I'm kind of sticking to what I know works. And let's just give this a listen right here. So I took advantage of the fact that there is a rumbling that happens in this song in the beginning, and that had that go into a very harsh riser that has a bass hit built into it. Then I went let my clips kind of just play out, and then we come over here, and now we're looking at the interesting part, because I have a subsonic bass drop right here, right there. And because there's a bass drop, I also went to the equalizer, applied a crossfade to these two parts of the clip of the audio right here, had a crossfade. And then I went up here and I cut off all the high frequencies, which gives you like this low pass that's happening. Or is it a high pass? I forgot. I'm not really cool with audio. I just know it works. I've watched another guy do it. So I drag this all the way over here. All the high frequencies are cut off, and it kind of lingers, and then it rolls back in. Now, when it rolls back in and I have the directional blur, I also have the whoosh that's going to play. So with this whoosh sub, I wanted it to come in and then go out. So easy, think harder, think smarter, not harder. I just made a duplicate. I reversed it by right-clicking it, going to change clip speed, hitting reverse speed, and there you go. It kind of just comes in, and then I have it layered over itself, and then it goes out. Then I have a very, very, very long riser right here. It takes a while for it to kind of build up, but I'll play it from right here. So I did the same thing where I cut off all the high frequencies on the part with distortion for this riser, and then right when it hits, that's when I change the screen. But if you notice, I'm not doing a crazy transition. I'm having an effect roll in and then just having the screen change. And because the screen changes with the audio coming in, it just looks natural. Like the person that's watching it is like, oh, like they're prepared to have the screen change. And I might sound like I'm not making any sense, but I really hope it's hitting, like it's clicking with you guys, because the whole reason I'm explaining this is kind of just to jog your creativity. So we have an effect come in, and then right at the apex of that effect coming in, we change the screen, and then the change of the screen also has a audio cue that is attached to it that goes to my logo right here, and then the song kind of fades out on its own. And I also have a hit that I meant to say right here built on top of it. So right when the riser hits, there's also a tech hit right here as well. So it kind of just helps it right there. Boom. And we want to be ninjas with this stuff, okay? We don't want people to think, oh, this color grade is so sick. This is so cool. This color grade is so cool. That's not what I want people to think. I want them to become immersed in what they're seeing. And not only with what they're seeing, right? But with what they're hearing as well. Now, I'm not the biggest expert in the world, but I do want my visuals and my audio to complement each other. I want things to work harmoniously. See, like, as I was saying before with the colors, we don't want anything jumping out unless we absolutely wanted to jump out like a hit, or like I showed you guys with the high frequency cutoff. That just adds emphasis to things. But everything should be exchanging hands very easily, and nothing should be abrupt. And also keep in mind, I'll give you some more wisdom before we get out of this right now, before I let you guys go. But make your composition your biggest priority, and everything else should fall into place when you come to the edit. A lot of people like spending a lot of time editing, like, and getting better, and you're only really going to get better if your footage evolves. So compose your stuff the way you want to, have it look the way you want to, and then develop your editing style based off of that. And that's all I really can share with you guys today as far as this edit. Actually, one more thing. Let me explain to you guys how I got this into Instagram, because you're probably wondering, well, he exported it horizontal. How the heck did he make it like, vertical format? Well, I took everything here. I hit Control A, selected all of it, copy pasted it onto this timeline right here. And this timeline, I made another timeline by literally coming up to File, hitting New Timeline, unchecking Use Project Settings, and going to the format and changing it to the vertical resolution, and then making this timeline and turning off quite literally everything that's an effect that we have. And then going into one singular clip and changing its parameters to -90 for the rotation and 0.57 for the zoom, so it just fits the screen, and going to copy, and then selecting all the clips in the entire timeline that need to be adjusted, just like this. Oop. And then right clicking that, and then going to paste attributes and selecting the two attributes I changed. So if I change zoom and rotation angle, I would choose zoom and rotation angle on this list, and then click apply, and we're good. That, or you can just put the clip in your iPhone and rotate it and then post it. That's a simple way of doing it too. And that's it, guys. That was me just verbally going off for over half an hour. Wow. Well, I'm going to be posting the raw thing on YouTube in a little bit. I'm not even going to edit this. But if anybody has any questions, just hit me in the comments, and I'm going to be attentive, and I'm going to answer what anybody wants. In the future, I will be doing one-on-one video education sessions. So if anybody wants to learn personally from me, I'm going to try and find a way of like kind of turning that into a legitimate service in the background. I don't really know how I'm going to charge people and stuff, or like make a community, but there's a little bit of a demand for it right now. So I'm going to start, going in the background and figuring that out. But I still want this to be fun for me and fun for you guys. So part of this is me just sharing what I'm doing with you guys, raw, and not really embellishing any of it. So like I said, hit the comments, hit subscribe, talk to me if you want, reach out to me on Instagram if you want to talk to me personally, and tell your friends or anybody that might need to know more information, and I'll see you guys later. You guys are awesome.